students, I'm Aanchal Sharma, your educator. In this video, we are going to talk about another concept related to environment, and it is the Nationally Determined Contribution, the NDC. So in 2022, India updated its Nationally Determined Contributions, NDC, to the United Nations Conference Convention on Climate Change, that is UNFCCC. So it came out, first of all, when was NDC started? So we started giving NDCs in the Paris Agreement. Paris Agreement was signed in 2015, and from these 2015, from the Paris Agreement, we started giving the NDCs, that is the Nationally Determined Contribution. So in this video, we're going to discuss what are NDCs, what is Paris Agreement, and then we'll see how we have updated the new NDCs that we came forward with. So what is basically Paris Agreement? So it is legally binding international climate treaty. It was entered in 2015 under UNFCCC, right? So we know this, we have discussed this in greater detail in all the different, in the class in which we discussed different protocols, conventions and treaties. We discussed about UNFCCC and the other multiple COPs that are there under it. So Paris Agreement being one of it. It endeavors, so there are different rules that we decided that from, or pledges that we took in Paris Agreement for the protection of the environment and limiting the temperature. What are these? So it endeavors to hold the increase in the global average temperature to below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. It also takes the efforts to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial levels. So we said that we will be coming forward and trying to limit the greenhouse gases, and also the temperature should be limited to 2 degrees Celsius. But favorably, we want it to be 1.5 degrees Celsius, which is not seen like it is seen that, and there are reports as well that it is very difficult to achieve the 1.5 degrees Celsius target, but 2 degree target can be achieved. So these are two important things that Paris Agreement talks about. Also, we said that we will limit the amount of greenhouse gas emissions by the human activities that we have been doing. Also, we want the human activities to be replaced with the growing of more trees and protecting the environment. So these are broadly the things that Paris Agreement talks about. Paris Agreement, it is an internationally binding treaty on the climate change, and it was entered in 2015. And it was said that we will be protecting the environmental standards, protecting the global average temperature, and we will limit the greenhouse gas emissions. Then about your NDC, let us read about it. The update NDC is a step towards India's goal to reach the net zero emissions till 2070. So we have said that we will be working on a climate change, and we want what? We want to combat the climate change problems, and for that we will be having net zero emissions by 2070. And these changes in the NDC is related and is because of this goal that we have to achieve till 2070. NDC are basically the plans that are submitted by the countries to work towards the climate goal. So each country, as we know, have their own nationally determined contributions. No one country can be same with another country who is emitting the same amount of greenhouse gases or pollution, or maybe they are impacting the environment at the same level. So all of them are giving their own NDCs or their own nationally determined contributions about what will be their own contribution to protect the climate change problems. And India revised their NDCs because we have this global mission to reach net zero emissions by 2070. They are submitted every 5 years to UNFCCC Secretariat. So now we have talked about the different pledges. Now what are basically the India's pledges? Let us read. So nationally determined contributions, and these are few India's pledges. Emission intensity. We talked about emission intensity here. Emission intensity is defined as the total amount of emissions emitted for every unit of the GDP. Right. So India has pledged to reduce the emission intensity of the GDP by 40% till 2030. So we are going to compare it to what? We are comparing it to 2005 level. So these all these data are very important and details are asked in the paper also. So you should know that we have pledged to reduce the emission intensity by 45%, which is a revised thing that we have come up with till 2030, and also we are comparing it to the level of 2005. The goal to reduce the emission intensity and improve energy efficiency is also it is not only specific to it but at the global level also. Then in 2020, India claimed to have already achieved 21% of its emission intensity as proportion to its GDP and the different commitments. Share on non-fossil fuel based energy, India has a plan to achieve about 50% of the cumulative energy power that would be taken out after the installed capacity from the non-fossil fuels, and this would be seen till 2030. So it is said that we will be making our energy from non-fossil fuel sector, from the renewable resources, and it would be up to 50% of the energy, electric power installed capacity would be there from the non-fossil fuel based energy resources by 2030. So two things to learn from here. First of all, India has pledged to reduce its emission intensity of the GDP by 45%. We are comparing it to 2005 level. And then we are here that we have said that we will be making more and more use of the non-fossil fuels, and by 2030 we will be using 50% of the non-fossil fuels to come up with the energy. India plans to use low-cost international finance, including the Green Climate Fund, that is the GCF, to achieve all of these objectives. What is GCF? GCF was set up as a part of Paris Agreement to help developing the country to achieve its nationally determined contribution and to work towards lowering its emission. So it's the world's largest fund, world's largest climate fund. So you should know the full form of GCF as well. Then we started to talk about sustainable living and life. Now what is it? India will promote sustainable living based on the different traditions, conservation and the modern techniques that are coming up so that we can combat the problem of climate change. Also, we talked about life, that we are living for the environment and we will be giving so much to the environment as we are expecting so much from the environment as well. It is initiated as a mass movement of life, that is lifestyle for environment. Or we can also say life is a very public movement and it will encourage people to come forward and will become pro-planet. We are trying to become pro-planet because our life is for the planet and we are because of the planet only. So there is this co-independence and whatever we will be doing will be for the greater good. It's like you can take examples like we are pledging to completely ban the usage of plastic bags. So this is one initiative that we also talked about. Adopting a cleaner path of ecosystem development is what we are also pledging, and we are creating an additional carbon sink of 5 to 3 billion tons so that the carbon dioxide can be absorbed again. Equivalent carbon dioxide can be adopted so that the carbon footprint can also be reduced. So we are planting more and more trees and increasing the tree coverage so that we can promote the carbon sinks by about 5 to 3 billion tons of carbon dioxide can be equivalent to what the emissions are. Now, what are India's performance in the past? You should remember that in 2020, India was ranking at the 10th position in the Climate Change Performance Index, CCPI, and it is released by the German Watch. Now, these are the updates and this is the type of revision that we should do. Now, these are the different targets and it is the target of 2023 and there are existing targets and there are these the updated targets and what are the progress are given in this picture. So, we have the emission intensity reduction is the goal here, and we said that in 2015, firstly we said that about 33.35% and we'll compare it to 2005 levels. Then we updated it and we are saying that now we are moving towards the 45%. The 45% emissions would be reduced, and we are again progressing. So 24% reduction were achieved in 2016, and we are moving towards that direction. Then the share of fossil fuels and installed electricity capacity. So previously we said that 40% of the electricity would be made from the non-fossil fuels, but now we have updated it to 50. Then we talked about carbon sink. So initially we talked about 5 to 3 billion or 2.5 to 3 billion tons of additional carbon sink, and it is clearly the same as before. We are again creating carbon sink so that we can absorb the excess amount of carbon dioxide, or it becomes equivalent. And all of this is being done because we have this zero emission target till 2070. This is the broader target because of which we updated the NDC. And how did NDC started to be? It started to be with the Paris Agreement. So you should remember this. This is a question and it was asked. So as a part of the intended nationally determined contribution, India's target of 33 to 35% reduction of carbon emission intensity by the year 2023 is sought to be achieved with reference to. So as I told you, there is always a reference year. And what is this reference year? Is it 1990 level? Is it 2005, 2015 or 2020 level? So which is the level they have decided? So the answer is B, and this is 2005 level. So India submitted, as I told you, their INDCs to your UNFCCC in 2015, and they said that India's greenhouse gas emission will be reduced by 33 to 35% below the 2005 level by 2030. We'll also have an additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion tons so that the carbon dioxide can be absorbed equivalently, and there will be more and more forest cover till 2030. So these are the part of your nationally determined contributions, and this was the, of course, the previous time it was asked. So this time they will ask you about the updated goals. They can ask you about the updated goals as well, right? So I hope you understood how the questions can be asked, and you understood what the INDCs are and how they can trick you by asking the things. Okay, so let us quickly revise. So in 2022, India updated their INDCs, and it is given to UNFCCC. We submitted to them. It was started in 2015. Giving the NDCs was started in 2015 under the Paris Agreement. So Paris Agreement said that it is an agreement and it is a legally binding international climate treaty. And in Paris Agreement, we talked about few things like having the temperature to be 2 degrees Celsius as above the pre-industrial levels, and favorably it should be 1.5 degrees Celsius. We will also limit the greenhouse gases. These were few things. Then India came up with a new mission that we said that there should be net zero by 2070, and for that 2070 we started updating the INDCs, and it was given in COP26, and we updated the goals, and we said that we will be moving forward to have better options and moving forward for the climate conditions. So we said that by 2030, as compared to 2005 level, the emissions would go down by 45%. Also, we said that we will be making more and more use of non-renewable resources, and 50% of the electricity would be made up out of the non-fossil fuels by 2030, and we'll have additional carbon sink from 2.5 billion ton to 3 billion tons so that the carbon dioxide can be equivalent to what we gave out, right? So I hope you understood what I had for you in this video. If you have any doubt, you can write it in the comment section. I'll surely reply to you. Thank you.